Welcome to Bill and Rob's and Excellent Adventure. I'm Bill Tilley.
And I'm Rob Schulte. Bill, an incredible day, an incredible film, an incredible podcast with me and you, buddy.
Nobody can do it better than us when we're trying to do the thing that you and I do.
That is so true. You know what? Couldn't have said it better myself. Now, it's time to end another series. And that's with After Hours that we're watching today. But it's the beginning of something new. Not quite yet. But before we talk about After Hours, which I had a blast watching, by the way, I think we owe it to our dedicated audience to let them know that the show is evolving, like mutants.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things where, you're just walking along doing your normal podcast life, and suddenly a radioactive podcasting affecting thing comes down from the side and it changes the status quo for a while there. So yeah, excited about the news that we are just not letting anybody just dangling it in front of them and just building up that tension like this movie does. So yeah, I'm excited for our news. We'll launch that bad boy at the end of the episode because we don't want to short sheet the finale of Miller Time. Dick's meant too much to us through this, so I think this is going to be a good show, followed by some, hopefully, what everybody thinks is some good news, and I'm sure they will.
Absolutely. Well, Bill, it's After Hours. It's the back of the box time. Am I reading the back of the box? Are you? I mean, this is a momentous occasion.
I'm going to take this one. This one just looks like this is one of those big old classic, got some 3-4 paragraph back of the boxes. So,
Bill, before actually we do the back of the box, should I let you know about my trip back to the 80s since this movie takes place?
You've time traveled since the last time we spoke?
I did. I took a little time travel. Yeah.
Tell me.
I sent you photos, which was amazing that the tech worked in that way. Because here's the thing. When you time travel, the traveling to a specific date and time, that's the easy part. Landing in a specific location of your choosing, that's the hard part, right?
True.
I don't want to land in 1985, 6 galaxies away. I want to land in 1981, Sherman Oaks Galleria in Los Angeles.
Whoa. Yeah. Where else would you want to go but one of the best malls ever in the history of malldom?
And turns out I landed right there. And okay, I'm going to drop the preface, the facade for a moment and let you know that there's this new Bret Easton Ellis TV show based off of his book, The Shards, which is coming out on August 5th. And so they took a portion of the Sherman Oaks Galleria and made it look like a 1981 mall. So everything we've seen in Commando, Chopping Mall, countless other films, of course, were there. Now, of course, they couldn't redecorate the whole mall, but I think they did a really, really great facsimile. It was like Exchange City, where the place you go in 8th grade with your class and everyone gets a little job and the mayor bounces a check because no one's actually taught us how to do anything like that before. It was like that. I got to, there was like a record list. Bill, it was so exciting.
I want to hear all about this.
There was a Mercedes, which you can tell me more about, out front. And then on the inside, they hand you a shopping bag, branded, of course, everything's branded, and a Shards card, little tough to say, but an actual charge card, branded the Shards. And each little station you go to, they had the old school, like, ching, like, credit card machine.
The old knuckle buster.
Yeah, and you just like that's how you like checked off all the things you did. And I didn't do everything, but there was a record listening station, I was asking the guy, I was like, wait, can I like take one of these records? He was like, no,
No.
it's just to listen to. I was like, okay. There was an ice cream stand. There was an arcade, which that was the thing that had one of the longest lines because
Oh,
people
for
wanted to
sure.
play Miss Pac-Man and whatnot. But yeah, you would charge your card and they'd give you a bunch of tokens. And then there was a t-shirt making store called The Pit.
Uh-huh.
And
The hot transfer.
yep, it was
Uh-huh.
it was so funny because the lady in front of me in line, she got her shirt and she was like, "Oh my God, it's so hot. Must be because it's summer." And I was like, no, it's because there
Nope.
was something that was like 600 degrees
Yeah.
2 seconds ago.
Yep. You're in an
Um,
enclosed room with a bunch of overpriced and overpowered toaster ovens with hot plastic being sucked into them. Yeah.
And so they had a different like branded for the show. Like one said like hot and rich and one said like roller babe.
Oh,
And I got one that said, I heart the valley because
yes.
it works on multiple levels for me.
Oh, if anybody needs a reason that you don't because it's too good to sign up to Rob's Patreon so you can get video for Vanderpump Robs, this is it, folks. If this push you over the top, I thank God I'm already a supporter.
But here's the thing, Bill. There was also a movie theater, which the entrance looked like old school movie theater. Inside it was only like 4 seats, but it was playing the trailer to the show. The ice cream stand had the people like in the paper hat and everything. There was a makeup stand for people that wanted to get like it was actually if you're a person who wears makeup, it was actually a pretty cool deal because they had like Maybelline representatives there.
I saw that.
Like,
it was a Maybelline kiosk.
Yeah, and if you didn't want the like foundation or whatever, the lady gave me the whole speech because I was just like, "Can I bring something back to my girlfriend?" She's like, "No, but
No.
tell her this." And they had the like mirrors with the 2 lights on either side, the little station that I know every one of our moms probably had,
and sisters,
yeah. But down to the trash cans and the lamps and the potted plants and the mannequins, like it was done well. And then Bill, when you left, they gave you a coffee table book because like what's more 1981 than a coffee table
wow
book? And I mean it is high quality and it is like a silly book. Like it's all about like the characters and like have little pop-up phrases and trivia facts and like very coffee table-y book. And it was like hardcover. Like it's Jessica kept saying, she's like, they spent a lot of money on this like activation. And I was like, yeah, I guess like it goes to show you that people are saying like Hollywood is dead. I think it's just evolving, but regardless, any show they want to be a hit, they spend a lot of money on.
If you're going to do a period piece, and I think it's always been this way, like if you've lived in whatever time that they've done, and I'm sorry, especially the 80s, because the 80s has been covered to death one way or the other. Of all the decades, it's the most flamboyant. So, it got tons of look. We all know the look. Guys like me and girls like and who are people of all whatever who were there, if they see it, it's cool, but if you've got it wrong, and I'm not saying go, total weirdo about it, but we know what's like, nope, that's not how that worked. And you sent me a picture that I don't know if this person was doing something there or was it like working the event or dressed for the part, but I looked and she looked like she stepped out of a time machine. She had the perfect curls in her perm and she was wearing a pair of acid wash jeans, the same Levi jeans that I owned and cannot find. And I have looked for 20 years, those jeans. Every time I see them on, acid wash jeans, you're like, nope, that ain't it. We know. And the things I saw were on point.
Yeah, everyone working was on point, but there were also people who showed up just in costume.
Yeah.
Now, what I will say is a few people who were like dressed up for the event, they were 90s. They were definitely like dressed like the 90s. And I've never felt more old than to be able to distinctly understand the difference between a 1991 outfit and a 1981 outfit.
Uh-huh. Oh, there's a difference.
Yeah. Flashy hypercolor with fanny packs and windbreaker, 91. Now, maybe a halter top or a crop top
Cuff
wrestling
jeans.
jersey,
Yeah.
acid wash jeans, and big striped socks. That could be 81.
Yeah.
But
you can tell by the headbands. You can tell by the
Yeah.
accessories. If you've got
yes.
you got the double skinny belt, you're in.
Yep.
You wore just a big flat one, you're out. That's not going to happen.
Well, Bill, now I think we're fully in 1980s mode. We can read the back of the box.
That was some genius prepping. You did some real some psych work on me on that one. You did. You put me right in the mood. Right in the pocket. Yep, you did. Yep. You pulled the trigger and there was a big bunch of neon behind it. So awesome.
Oh, and the coffee shop I went to this morning is also advertising the show.
Oh, is it set in the? I mean, is it set?
Or is it 1981?
Okay, I didn't know if it was maybe like a time travel thing where you popped in. I had not heard of this show.
So the book apparently, and it's Bret Easton Ellis, so I'm sure they're staying pretty close to the book. But it's like they call it an autofiction, so it's like an autobiography of his life in the early 80s, except he's fictionalized a lot of things of it. So it's a story about like these 4 or 5 kids at like a prep school, but there's also a serial killer.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, that's very 80s as well. We did.
Yes.
Hey, our decade did some pretty good serial killers. And I say that with tongue in cheek, folks.
And really the 70s had a lot of great, maybe it was the 60s, a lot of great plane hijackers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can't. Well, I mean, you could just walk on the plane. Anybody could. You know, that's different.
Well, it's interesting because I've been binging the Brady Bunch, Bill, which we can talk about a little bit later. But there's one point on an episode where Mike Brady's like, what do you want to be, like one of these flyjackers? I was like, oh my God, it was so common. There was like a portmanteau.
Oh my God. More like, we can't say hijacker on the Brady Bunch. Come on now. Yeah. Let's back that off. You don't want to get too edgy.
Yeah.
That's why Marcia fell in love with Davy Jones and not, Mickey Dolenz, because you can't handle that kind of edge.
I'm on the final season and I'm just counting down the days until Cousin Oliver's introduced.
You're the only one, brother.
Well, I don't know. I was like, I always remember Cousin Oliver, but when does he actually show up? It must be like the last 7 episodes or something.
It's just
when Greg decides to stop filming.
Yeah, it's just that feeling of approaching doom. Poor guy. Yeah. He didn't ask for this, just a kid.
Okay, sorry. Back of the box time.
Back of the box for 1985's After Hours. After Taxi Driver and Raging Bull, Scorsese's New York gets funny after hours. Buttoned up, buttoned down word processor, Paul Hackett is looking for a break from his humdrum Manhattan routine. Full of hope and goodwill, he heads to Soho, where I hear werewolves run around sometimes there, for a late night date with Marcy, a pretty girl he scarcely knows. Poor Paul. He's about to become the punchline of a giant cosmic joke. No one's ever told him that when it's after hours, different rules apply. Martin Scorsese, the celebrated distinctly New York filmmaker, whose Mean Streets, Taxi Driver, New York, and King of Comedy and other works established him as the Big Apple's premier chronicler. So here it's just to, take on the director. It's Scorsese, you got to go. Now takes a darkly comic look at his favorite city in a wild and woolly free-for-all. The descent down the urban rabbit hole begins when Paul Griffin Dunn, en route to Soho, watches his money fly irretrievably out a taxi window. It's a sign of things to come because he gradually gets caught in a bizarre web of seemingly chance encounters with the loopy, loony downtown night people, brought to life by a terrific all-star cast, including Desperately Seeking Susan's Rosanna Arquette, Tootsie's Terry Garr, and the outrageous comedy team, Cheech and Chong. But the random events of Joseph Miner's ingenious script turn out to be related in startling, humorous ways. I never read anything so original or intriguing as After Hours, says Scorsese, who was awarded the Best Director honors at the 1986 Cannes Film Festival. I was fascinated by what was happening as the story unfolds. It is like a Chinese puzzle. See if you can put all the pieces together. Watch this bold, inventive movie now, or After Hours.
Wow. That is something. Now, Bill, what I will say is I mentioned this last episode. I had the Criterion version of this 4K disc that I picked up on the yearly 50% off sale, which they say it's yearly, but it seems like it happens quite often. Like whether it's actually through Criterion or like Barnes and Noble or something. So I think like a good twice a year you can get a discount on these if anyone's looking to do that.
It's the semi-annual sale.
Yeah. Christmas in July, something like that.
Sure.
But lots of special features, of course, on a Criterion disc. And one is an interview with Scorsese and Fran Lebowitz from like 2023. And I didn't watch the whole thing because it is fairly long, but I watched it just to get a feel for how they were going to talk about it, a few decades later. And it was interesting that Scorsese says that, well, King of Comedy bombed, and that was the movie he did before this. And he was basically, take this with a grain of salt, but he was like, I was broke when I made After Hours. And I guess that could be fair, but also he was able to purchase a loft in Soho, which is not like it is now, of course. If that would be, they point out that like it had only been like 10 or 20 years since it was like a shoe factory or something, So they were still a little bit, you would have to renovate it. It might be cheap to buy, but it wouldn't be cheap to live in.
Yeah, this is the time when all that property was just old versus a 20 years later where it's like, it's kitsch. This is cool because it is old, and now we're going to charge 8 times what it should be worth.
Well, yeah, like my late friend Maury, who was an incredible human being. Her and her husband, my friend Justin, at the time, when I moved to New York, they had some pretty decent jobs, and they had I don't know if they owned or rented whatever, but like they had a loft in Soho in the 2016 era, and it was incredible. It wasn't like fancy decked out or anything, but it looked a lot like Kiki's loft in this one, but maybe someone had gone through and actually painted the walls and made it livable and not just like a shell where you could sleep somewhere. And it's funny to think that like so much of those buildings changed from just like the inside, like the pipes, like they made it so that maybe your toilet won't overflow.
Yeah, it's kind of incredible because you look at those things and what do they always say? Wow, look at this space. Like they're always selling you the space, and hopefully you're getting a space you can live in versus something you're going to have to like deal with or replace because none of these places were ever made to live in. So you're kind of like, I don't know. That would be tough for me because I don't trust anybody, and I'd be like, I can't see what you've done to this place, and so I don't know what's behind this wall. But yeah, there's something to be said. Like especially you tell me, you've lived the New York, LA life. Spaces at a premium, but you've also owned a house. Like I'm willing to bet, even though you might be fine, you're fine with where you're living, but do you miss the space of the house?
I would say in New York, no, because like you want to get a space that doesn't feel like you're sardines, right? You want to be able to like have separation or space like this. So if you're getting a loft, maybe that's wide, but you don't have walls, right? But an apartment, it's like if I've got a bedroom, I've got a living room, a kitchen, perfectly fine. New York specifically, because no matter what, you step foot out that door, you have a place to go or something to do within, 9 times out of 10, within a very short walk, right? Or it's a very short walk to the subway, into which you can go and do something else. And New York is living and breathing and exciting like this movie shows. So space, not so much. Los Angeles, I don't think I could have the size of apartment I had in New York, because if I want to go do something, it's get in the car, drive at least 20 minutes, there's just not that mix. So that's why when Jessica and I moved back to LA, we had to find a place that we were like, maybe this is a little more expensive, but I have walkable areas that I can go to, and I'm essentially paying for the neighborhood more than the space. And we actually have a decently sized space apartment too.
I think it's amazing because now that we've just talked about this right here, I think it plays into this movie, because you look at how Griffin Dunn's apartment is what you just described, a 1-bedroom with a living room and a kitchenette. It's what a lot of people would call small, but you look at New York and go, oh, that's probably big for New York, but overall. And it's incredible how what you're doing relates to the happiness of the life you're living and what you're living it in, because, here's the young yuppie, but no interior life in his apartment. So his whole thing is trying to figure out how to escape that and live, versus people like I'm in the Midwest. I live in a house. And when you're in the house, it's all about how you can live best in the house and not have to go per se out into the world, get married, have your world becomes compartmentalized. And it's weird how that kind of just swirls around and it can affect your brain. Cause I've lived in the city in a small apartment, and same thing while I'm here. And it's all about how do I get out of here and have something to do. You can't be happy in that space for long periods of time, because then you start noticing, well, I'm kind of hemmed in, and I've read this book and I've looked at these 4 walls and blah, blah, blah. It's just a weird how where we're putting ourselves in the world can really throw us off. And also, like this movie, are you equipped to handle the outside part of that? And what is it going to do to you? So
when you let the animal out of its cage, can it survive?
Yeah, I mean, that is a good way to put it. So maybe we're going to go over some of this movie. We'll start talking about it a little bit and let our fine friends make their own decisions about that. Also, I want to let them know, of course, this movie, Scorsese movies, written by Joseph Minion. The main stars in this movie, Griffin Dunn, Roseanne Arquette, Vera Bloom as June, Cheech and Chong, Linda Fiorentino as Kiki, a fun name to see in the movies. She's done some neat stuff over the years. And Catherine O'Hara makes a substantial appearance, and John Hurt, also one of the actors in this movie. So you've got the Home Aloners before they were Home Alone. That's kind of neat. Of course, the reason for this season, the incomparable Dick Miller as Pete, the diner waiter, and can't even wait to talk about this part, but we got to talk about the other parts first. So I'll kick it off. So we've got Paul. He is word processor, I think, is data entry person, something like that. He does the sit at a terminal and type things in. We meet him showing off how to do this to Bronson Pinchot, a young pre-perfect strangers Bronson Pinchot, which is amazing. And just for context, Paul's telling him how easy he's going to get this in the job, and Bronson Pinchot's character starts off with I'm not really going to be here forever. He wants to make this magazine that's clearly not going to make any money, but let's just say he has bohemian dreams of being bigger. And so Paul starts kind of looking around the room, and you see him focusing on other people's stuff at their desks, their cats, their pictures of their cats and their kids and calendars and vacations, and just you can see he's kind of glancing at their lives, the whatever you bring to the office part, and he looks longingly. So you kind of pick up real quick that's he doesn't really have much going on, does he? So he goes home to the apartment we just described with, of course, the one poster on the wall, the one place you've never been, but it looks cool because it's artsy. And he's kind of had enough. He flips, watching him sit and bring the cable box to the coffee table. And flip through the clicker channels. I knew that sound so well. Nothing's on. So he takes off to the local diner to read his book and sit and, I guess, drink coffee or whatever he was doing. And he meets Roseanne Arquette's character, Marcy, who strikes up a small conversation about the book he's reading, which leads them to a neat exchange where you can tell, she's kind of quirky and different, and, she's cute and nice, and Paul's vibing on her, and they go back and forth with a little bit of stuff, and she mentions her roommate makes bagel and cream cheese paperweights. Would he like to buy one? It's a weird because Paul's like, sure, I'd love to buy one. And he sells it so hard, you kind of almost don't realize that, yeah, he just wants a phone number.
Yeah,
to
he just
call
wants
her
to
with.
like get in contact. Like, because if
And
he gets the roommate's phone number, he's essentially got her phone
he's
number.
got Marcy's number. And I think right away, this is a neat point because their conversation, it's not smooth like, you know, in a modern movie or a polished movie. The dialogue all leads to, they stumble because he gets the number wrong and she kind of gets miffed that he gets the number wrong. And he's like, I'm sorry. I'm like, that's a total sounding like something I would do moment. Like, I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
like, I like you. I didn't hear I'm sorry. I didn't hear the number. I have to ask twice. It's kind of real. So
Yeah.
it was a little bit jarring to be there. I'm like,
There's
okay.
and that's a good entry point to the rest of this movie because although a lot of this movie is over the top, the moments, the like person to person moments do feel very real conversationally, which is why it works well, I think. And I find it I find it really interesting that like this interaction with Marcy, it's like I didn't quite find her quirky at this point. I understand that she is, but in comparison to what we get coming up, it was like, oh, this is just kind of like a flirty person talking to like a more reserved guy, but they've got this mutual connection of being out late and they've read the same books and they can make a joke at the uh, guy working the cash register who's practicing his dance moves, which is
Right.
kind of fun.
Yeah, it's imperfect. And it's that
Yeah.
stumbly, like, I didn't plan to have this conversation. So it being a little awkward is right,
Yeah.
and it's normal. So he gets the number, they leave, and when he gets back to his apartment, he decides to call her right away. He gets a hold of the roommate. She puts Marcy on the phone, and Marcy's like immediately pretty much, hey, why don't you come on over? I'm glad you called. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay,
Okay.
that worked out pretty good. So he grabs his jacket, jumps in a cab that is apparently driven by Paul Schumacher or Mario Andretti, one or the other.
Yeah.
Pick your race driver name because this camera is cranked to bejesus. And he takes a harrowing trip uptown with this cab driver. And for some reason, he takes his $20, which he mentions, I've only got $20. Can you make change? Which was very 80s right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you had to announce your amount of money you had to make sure you could use it. And he takes it out of his wallet, sets it in the ashtray, and it flies out the window. Which
Why would you do this?
Why would you do this? It's so dumb. But he does it, says it's a plot device. And so when they get to the apartment, he tells the cabbie, he's stumbling, hey, man, I'm so sorry. It flew out. And the guy just looks at him. He's mad. He drives off. And that sets up the whole scenario. So now Paul's at the apartment. He's got what we're told is no money. We find out is he's got a teeny tiny amount of change. But yeah, things are already off to a weird start. And at this point, I was like, okay, movie, you do have my attention.
Yes.
Because these are things that could happen. And I'm going, okay, is he just a hapless fool? Or are we setting him up to take some kind of weird pounding? And I was interested to watch it go.
And importantly, it shows the distinction between uptown and downtown, right?
Yes.
And that is something, if you've not, like, even if you visit New York, you may not quite get the, like, culturally different situations that are happening there. I'm not saying, like, yes, of course, like, rich yuppies live in the more expensive uptown spots, but there's also places uptown that are affordable as well, right? Like, he specifically lives in this part of uptown and doesn't venture downtown. And that's like, you'll see that even through Seinfeld era. We're like, oh, you're going downtown, right? You're going to Brooklyn? What? And it's interesting that divide at this point in time through the 90s, because when I lived there, it was like everyone my age lived in Brooklyn, or they lived like downtown or midtown. Like I knew like maybe one or two people that lived uptown in New York, and I guess it goes to show you I'm kind of a creative type. I'm kind of a little artsy little boy, and look, the Kiki is an artsy gal and is living downtown as well. It's all there, right? When I worked with the finance bros on their podcasts, they're all midtown, uptown guys. They got to get to the NASDAQ and stuff. So It's just it is a big leap for this uptown guy to take a train or a taxi in this case to Soho at like midnight. That's a big deal. Also, why was Marcy at the coffee shop that seems like it is probably close to uptown, maybe when they met, if that's where he's going?
Would have had to be because
Yeah,
he didn't
he
go.
walked
Plus,
there.
he's close to his apartment. She winds up close to her apartment, so she
Yeah.
had to be there for a reason.
And I kind of like that we don't know why.
We
Just
don't
putting
know
that
why.
out there. But anyway, at Kiki and Marcy's apartment, Paul meets Kiki. She's this sculptress we talked about with the bagels and paperweights, but she's making a paper mache man who is like on his knees screaming like Edward Munch,
Mm-hmm.
which Paul makes reference to. But while waiting for Marcy to return from the drugstore, Kiki talks Paul into working on this paper mache sculpture. And then it turns into them flirting with each other and Paul saying, "Hey, do you need a massage? Your shoulders are tense." And right as they feel like they're about to maybe go, "Hey, Marcy ain't coming home. Let's move this to the next level," she passes out and Marcy immediately is there. And Paul's like, "Hey, great, cool. I didn't make a stupid mistake." And they start talking, but the conversation bounces pretty erratically between Marcy's history with assault and her husband, her previous boyfriends, and it's a really uncomfortable, like, "Hey, I just met you" situation with Paul. And let's be frank, like, Paul's probably like, "Look, we flirted with a girl. I thought this was kind of a booty call, but I'm getting a life story, and I feel like it would be wrong for me to move any further with this." But he still wants to sleep with her.
Yeah.
He's still like a 1981 man who's ready to and willing. And look, it's late. What are we doing here? But he discovers like a burn cream in her bag when she's taking a shower, and he convinces himself that she must be like horribly disfigured under her robe. I don't know what's going on her. And he snaps angrily at her when they start talking. This was like odd. I'm not exactly sure, and I want your thoughts on this because when they're smoking this joint together, and then he gets so angry, snaps, and he's like, "I thought I was coming over here for paperweights. Go get me one of those paperweights." And when she exits to go talk about the paperweights, he like makes his exit and sneaks out of the apartment on a like, "I got to get the hell out of here. I'm going home." Did you find this strange, believable? What about it?
So I found it off-putting, and
Yeah.
I didn't find it believable really, because this whole scene, and preface one thing, when we meet Kiki, she's working in a leather miniskirt and a bra and high heels. The whole setup is kind of weird. And so when that happens and Paul's kind of vibing on her a little bit, like, I don't know, like, are you just laying the groundwork if Marcy doesn't work out? I found like that's creepy. But Griffin Dunn's performance is so, like, he's not as super unnerved by the situation where he's at. You can tell he doesn't have the skills, but he's talking and relaying, being polite, and he's not totally freaked out by the situation when it starts.
And to be fair, I don't know if this is fair, but it makes, to give a little bit more context, before he starts giving Kiki the massage, Marcy has called because she's at the drugstore, and we hear Kiki's side of the conversation, and Kiki's like, "Well, that's not my problem." Like this is, and so you're kind of thinking like, "Oh, is Marcy asking to make an excuse for her?" Yada yada. We don't really know what's going on, so maybe Paul is like, "Oh, Marcy doesn't want to see me. She's trying to get out of this, but I'm here. I'll give Kiki a massage."
Exactly. It's like, okay, if that deal's blown, Like, I guess he's trying to salvage whatever sex he might get out of the evening.
Yeah.
But I don't think he doesn't. I mean, he seemed to really like Marcy. So we're kind of on
He
this
doesn't seem
weird.
like he's just like a creep.
Yeah, not totally, but it's definitely like he's willing to get down. But when they go through all these conversations, now I'm with Paul, and like the thing she says is how she's lived her life, what she's going through at the moment, and the way she portrays it and says it.
Yeah.
You can tell this girl's got some stuff going on. And so
yes,
it freaks him out. And I think it would freak anybody out, whoever you are, because that's a lot of dump of information and emotions on somebody you met a few hours ago. And now it's the middle of the night. Yeah. And you're like, holy moly, I think Paul's just at this point had too much adventure. But when he has when they smoke the joint and he starts snapping at her, like he's coming up with an excuse to get her out of the room so he can dash, which is a dog move. It's a shit move.
It's a coward's way out.
It's a coward's move. And at that point, I'm okay. I don't think Paul's the devil. He's a
flawed character.
He is deeply flawed, and clearly his ability to, do well with emotions ain't that great. I mean, he's got that. He just isn't suited for this. And so instead of just saying, hey, it's been interesting, but I don't think this is going to work, and just turn around and walk out. Don't even wait. I could have loved with that, but he's like, I don't know. It's like setting him up to now be not the hero of the story, but like not the victim either. It's a weird set. But when he goes out into the pouring, dumping rain, I'm like, all I could think of is walking through the streets of Soho in the rain. I'm like, okay, this guy's, he kind of tried to be a bit of a wolf, but now he's going to be a wet dog because it's bit him in the ass.
Ooh, well, where do we take it from here, Bill? The subway fares have increased.
At midnight, which it is well after. Yeah, Paul's drenched. He goes to the subway. He wants a token. It's $1.50. He's got 97 cents. Guy won't let him have it. That's his job. And now he's starting to get real belligerent because his temper's flared and he's freaked out. He tries to jump the turnstile. The cop throws him back and he says, I've never done that before, which you get it. It's like, okay, this guy's now overloaded. His ability to deal with stuff has hit overload for him. So he heads back out into the rain. Excuse me. And he stops at a bar that, oddly enough, called the Terminal Bar to dry off. And he's like, can I just sit here? And I'm surprised because I kept waiting for people to say no. Like, you got to pay. And they do that, but they don't enforce it. It's just strange. And so he meets a new cast of characters. We've got Tom, the bartender, played by John Hurt. Julie, the waitress, played by Terry Garr, with this giant. She looks like she did on Star Trek, plus the beehive hair. She's got a real 60s vibe going on, which is odd. Yeah. And so there's some exchanges back and forth. He's trying to figure out what to do. He starts telling his troubles to Tom. And this is after Julie, who he just has met like 6 seconds ago, leaves him a guest check note with it says, help me. I hate my job. I want to leave here. I'm like, that's super weird. So now the weird moments are coming fast and furious. So you feel Tom's like, for whatever reason, he's like, man, I'll give you the $1.50 and I'll send you home. Like, he's just apparently trying to be a nice guy, which is cool, but the register won't open. Tom freaks out. He bashes on it. He's like, he needs the key to the register, which of course is in his apartment. And this begins a strange exchange because they make a deal where Paul will leave his apartment keys with Tom. Tom will give him his apartment keys to prove that he's not going to run off or steal it or rob him. Like I'll leave my driver's license at the gas station until I go get my money, which I've done once in my life, but
risky.
It's a local station. It's not like I had to worry too much about it. And I know me, I knew I was coming back. And Paul, he's me in that moment. He's like, I know you don't know me. I'm not going to rob you. Here's all this stuff. I know I'm coming back. So he agrees. Tom agrees, gives him his key, tells him where. He heads to the apartment. He finds the stuff. He has time to overflow Tom's toilet and run away, which
and by just throwing iguana in there, by the way.
Yeah, too. I mean, which is a real
toilet.
Right. That should really cause it to, which is a real dick move, honestly. And then not say anything about it. And this is where you're like, okay, Paul might be a bit of a creep, or he's at least letting himself be a creep because he's just thinking about himself and getting out of this situation. So, and on the way out, the neighbors accost him because he doesn't live here. And they're like, we've had a lot of robberies, and he kind of tells the story of Tom's keys, Tom's thing. I'm going, and he says enough about Tom that they buy it. And so, but they're wondering. So he's out the door. But when he goes back, he sees the actual thieves outside. It's the Cheech and Chong characters. They're loading stuff in a van. One of the things they're loading is Kiki's Screaming Man sculpture in her television set, which he yells at them. They drop it. The TV explodes. The sculpture, for some reason, doesn't. And they drive off. So he grabs it and then heads back to Kiki's because he's thinking they've been robbed. And yeah, there's Kiki up there. She's got a gag in her mouth or whatever. She flips it. Flip me the keys. And the keys are a big thing about dropping. He never catches them, which I found out in the trivia. They were afraid they would kill Griffin Dunn if they hit him. So they did all this stuff.
Well, what I will say is Scorsese also in that interview was like, yeah, but it's also like adds tension to be like, oh, is it going to hit him in the head? And, it shows him not feeling comfortable catching either. So two birds, I guess. Two birds.
So he heads upstairs, finds Kiki tied up to a pole, thinking that's the robber's done. Nah, it's her kinky boyfriend's there, and they've been doing some role play. She'd sold the sculpture, sold the TV. He'd gotten it all wrong. He's like, oh, my God, sorry.
She's tied shibari knots.
Yeah, like sailor. He's sailing. He makes like, look at this Carlos craftsmanship on this. It's like total. That is such a total like guy out of water thing to do. It's like, I've got a reference that I can make of my knowledge in this situation. Let me drop it as an anchor of any time in this craziness. And he's like, Marcy's still here. Yeah, you should. And he's like, I should go apologize to her. That was totally wrong. He's been told this, and now he agrees. He goes to her room. She looks asleep.
Is this when they say they're going to Club Berlin?
Yeah, Well, no, they don't tell him that.
Oh.
He thinks they're still in the living room because he starts yelling. At this point. So Marcy's on the bed, eyes open a little bit. He gives this whole big apology, which sounds sincere. Like, I think he means it. Because he's like, I screwed up. But turns out she's overdosed on sleeping pills. And we see the prescription to somebody named Thomas, which flashes by really fast. She's gone. And so he's talked to her, gone. And he freaks out. He calls the police, or he starts screaming for Kiki. Kiki and her boyfriend have left. And they've left a note. Hey, we went to this place called Club Berlin if you two want to come over afterwards. He runs back. He calls the cops. He says there's a dead body here. But then he kind of, I don't know how to put this. He pulls the sheet off of Marcy slowly. And it's like he's copping a look at her body before he leaves, is what my first thought was.
Me too. But then I realized he's going like, did she really have all these scars? Because from like the arm and leg and shoulder that I can see, it doesn't seem like she had any burn scars.
Yeah. So he slowly pulls the sheet back to find it's a tattoo. That's what he saw instead of like these horrible burn. And let's drop this in real quick. When he first met Kiki, he tells this odd story about being a kid with his tonsils out in the hospital, no beds for him. So they put a mask on him and put him in the burn ward and told him not to take the mask off. So that's like his weird thing about burns. It's like a trauma trigger. Not that he had them, not that he saw them, but just that this moment about burns freaked him out forever, apparently. And I guess that was the gist of the whole thing, which did not land well for me because that just seems weird. But I guess it is a reason in this crazy movie. So that's it. So Paul.
So I guess it gives a little bit more credence to him like snapping and wanting to get the hell out of there.
It does, because he sees her burn cream and a book about burns, and it's like something that he just goes in his brain's like, I can't deal with this subject, and now this subject has appeared. Yeah. And it is a reason to be the wackadoo that he is. But he takes a bunch of notebook paper, writes dead body with arrows pointing to Marcy's room for the cops to get.
Because he calls the cops and reports the body too.
Calls the cops. He even gives his name. Like he's
and props the door open so they can come in.
But he's so everybody could rob him. But he's going home. He ain't waiting around. And so that's just weird. I just don't know how else to put it. It's a weird exchange, and I'm still sitting there going, all right, man, I get it. You're completely overloaded and freaking out, but I'm a person that believes at a certain point, certain moments happen that we all know on a genetic, chemical level. This is good. This is bad. This is right. This is wrong. There's just certain moments within things, and you wait for the cops to come get because the cops would have taken you home.
Well, and also it is one of those things where the her death is like it doesn't seem to really even matter to him. And I think we're
No.
supposed to be like, I didn't know her, right? I didn't know her that well, and and he does like feel bad because he recognizes that if he wouldn't have left, it wouldn't have happened. But there's a weird like aloofness to this where it feels like it's more of his problem than her problem. And I would say it was her problem. Like she suffered the most here, Paul, not you.
Yeah, it was her problem. But this is a weird. I called it the Dukes of Hazzard rule because it's the point in the Dukes where, for some reason, if the boys make it home before Roscoe gets there, whatever happened before is kind of off the books. Like
Yeah.
you've touched home base, you're safe, and it's a weird thing. And so now he's like, I just need to get home. Like if I can get home, I guess he thinks he can deal with it as long as he gets home. He just wants no more of this shit that is happening to him
Yeah.
to happen to him. But it's happened. So this is bad. So Paul calls the cops on that. He grabs the note from Kiki about Club Berlin. I don't know why. I don't really know what his motivation is to get to her and this club, or even if he is, and he just wants his name on a note taken out of the room. Like he says, I'm out of here, and grabs his stuff. Not sure, but he heads over, but he heads back to the bar because he's still got Tom's keys from earlier about the cash register. The bar's closed. Son of a bitch. Julie's quit her job. She's like, hey, it's still raining and cold. Why don't you come over to my apartment, conveniently right across the street? And they go up, and now they have this exchange where we're learning a little bit about Julie. Everybody loves Paul. All the girls in this movie seem to like Paul, and yet always find a way to unlike Paul, which is very telling. But I don't know. I don't even know if he's giving them reasons sometimes, or they're just putting them in there. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But they go through
it's
her.
after hours, Bill. You never know what's going to happen.
It's way after hours. Oh dear. When we've skipped Dick Miller's part. I'm going to come back to Dick Miller at the end. I'll finish with Dick Miller's part.
Of course, because Paul runs to Tom. He returns to get his keys, but Tom this is the point, because Tom hasn't left the bar yet. Okay, this is like, sorry, I don't want to get too convoluted for people, but like, of course, Paul has to go exchange his keys back, get the money for the subway. And when he gets there, he realizes that the keychain, which has a skull and a top hat on it, Tom's keys, is the same tattoo that Marcy had on her leg. And as he's realizing this, the phone rings. Tom gets the phone call. He's like, oh my God, my girlfriend's dead. And so we realize that Tom is probably the abusive boyfriend that was dating Marcy. And it all kind of clicks when he was like exploding earlier, trying to break open the cash register because he didn't have the key that Paul had to go get. And we're like, all right, this guy, maybe we don't want to be friends with him. How do we get this going? But instead, he goes back to Julie's apartment, right?
Yep, because he'd promised Julie before he left. Is she sure he was going to ditch her too? And he's like, I promise you I'll be back in 2 minutes. I will come back. And it's a weird promise because now we've got another immediately sort of codependent thing happening. And she's already had her moment of here's my story, but then, Paul's been disrespectful to me. But then he plies it off because he's always switches over to a gear I know, which is let's bring the confrontation down. And that's not always the best thing, but I understand this gear of, hey, let's bring it down. I'm sorry. No, your stuff looks great. Everything is great. You're great.
Please continue drawing my face for some reason.
Yeah. Let me jangle a metaphorical set of keys in front of you so you stop being mad at me for me to figure out my next move. So he runs back to Julie's. He tells her, yep, I'm here, but that ends quickly. She has also been an artist. She has sketched Paul's face as we're watching it. This movie's good about this, like the keys. We'll talk about it. But when it all goes to pot again, he's like, I just want to go home. They have a squabble. He swears he'll call. She's like, yeah, right. Boom, out the door he goes. And they part angrily. So every exchange with every person almost up to this point has ended poorly for Paul, except, I guess, really Kiki and her boyfriend, because he didn't get mad at them. They just pushed him to go do the right thing. But every time he meets a female, it's always out there on the limb a bit, and it doesn't seem to end well for either one of them. And this is the pattern that has developed.
Yeah. So Paul leaves Julie's. What makes Paul leave Julie's this time?
He still wants to go home. He just wants to go home.
Yeah, he just wants. So, okay. As simple as that. But he gets her number, KL5. But
that's true. He struggles with her number like he struggles with Marcy's number.
Well, because she doesn't give him enough numbers.
Right. She gives him
and then she's like, well, of course it starts with KL. It's a movie. Come on.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, he heads to Club Berlin to find Kiki and Horst and tell them what's going on, I guess. But he doesn't have a mohawk, and it's Mohawk night, so he can't get in. And eventually, he begs his way in so much that the bartender or the bouncer brings him directly to the people who are shaving mohawks into people's head. He can't have this. He's got a word processing job. He can't show up with a mohawk. But he runs out, doesn't get Kiki and Horst's opinion or attention, and he then sees the statue again and rips $20, which has been paper mache'd, off of the paper mache statue. Thank goodness. He sees the original taxi cab who's dropping off Catherine O'Hara. He's like, hey, this is great. Remember when I lost the $20? I've got more $20. You can now take me home. And no, he just takes the 20, drives off. Catherine O'Hara's like, look, I've got a Mr. Softy truck. I'm an independent contractor. We can hang out, and then I'll drive you uptown in my Mr. Softy truck. Turns out she's a little cuckoo as well. I think she's more just defensive, that she thinks that she doesn't know what she's doing when she's like, I'm a businesswoman. I know exactly what I'm doing. But it's also that, like, why are you selling? You just getting off of work as a Mr. Softy driver at 3 a.m.? What?
Yeah, I feel like at this point, with the characters, the female characters that Paul meets in the movie, they're doing a thing which I have a friend who will remain nameless who does this. And they tend to, irregardless of the situation, kind of lead off with humor. And I know what it's like because I made this mistake in younger days. It's like, well, I'll lighten the mood. And these are people you don't even know. But around your friends, sometimes it's just not a good idea to lighten the mood. It's just help them out, or just kind of be quiet and be there and listen for a minute and not push their buttons a little more. And for better or worse, all the ladies in this movie have pushed Paul's buttons. And it's not really a justification, but it is kind of the reason why he, as the movie goes on, he's less and less able to deal with any of this. Like, he wants to make a phone call. Every time he calls information for the number of his buddy, Catherine O'Hara starts going 6254972, and like, he just loses it. And it's weird also that they still they don't throw him out, but she's like, oh, fine, I'll just take you there, which seems like so much more work for her, a stranger, than to just let him make this phone call. Or somebody, for the love of God, give the man $1.50 and send him to the subway station. It's so strange, but this is the quest of this movie. It's just we can't do the normal thing to home. It's all the stress of home that is driving Paul through this whole movie, and just he's trying to do it, I guess my wife would say, the hardest way possible, like me. He's found the hardest way. He's going to do it. But she's like, fine, I'll take you. And when they walk outside, guess what? Julie has decided that Paul is the neighborhood burglar, which everybody's freaked out about. And they have gone full Young Frankenstein. She has put posters up everywhere. She's had time to make dozens and dozens of posters and put them up all everywhere. And then Catherine O'Hara's character sees one, and she's like, you're the robber. Holy crap. And then we're off on this giant chase through the streets. of him being pursued by the neighbors and her in her truck with the jingling going. And it starts, I mean, it kind of at this point is a bit of a Keystone Cops farce feeling, but it's also the cathartic moment because, man, Paul has just had enough at one point of running, and he drops in the streets and he screams to God, I guess, what do you want from me? Like, this is my big victim moment. And I'm thinking as I'm watching this, I'm going, dude, you're now in this situation kind of on your own because you could have solved this so much earlier in the movie, but for some reason, I don't know if he's looking for somebody to tell him it's not his fault, which they can't do because they don't even really know what's happening until he meets this one guy across the street who sees him and he's like, can you help me? Can I use your phone? Takes him back to his apartment, but it turns out this guy thinks it's going to be a hookup for him and Paul. And I think Paul kind of jerkily leads him on at this point, which is kind of weird. Yeah. And he does a big info dump to this guy in cutaways because we've seen the movie, but this guy hasn't. And he's just kind of the voice of like, wow, that's just nuts. What's wrong with you, man?
Well, and notably, Paul is now the crazy person. This guy.
Paul is now the crazy person. He's come all around, but the guy lets him use his phone. He calls the cops. He's like, this is my name. Please, people are trying to kill me. I don't know where I am, but I'm in this place. And then they hang up on him. And that's a weird moment. Yeah. And I don't think the cops tend to do that, but what do I know?
I mean, it works well for the movie, but also like he is deranged at this point.
And this is the part where I started to wonder, is he back at Kiki's and he's been doped by the pot that he says is not pot that he and Marcy smoked. And this whole thing is either some fever dream or he's going to wake up. He's going to wake up a statue in their thing. I don't know. Like he's going to get gorgoned. What's happening? But no, back to the streets. So Paul, he's still being chased. Paul makes a dash out of the thing. He meets Paul he finds Paul in the diner, still the same diner that he earlier Tom. He meets Tom in the diner. He'd been in the diner before, and he's like, "He's the bathroom. Got to be a customer. Oh, I swear, I'm coming back and put meat here. I need a hamburger and some coffee." And after it's probably been another hour, he meets Tom in there in the same diner, which he shouldn't go into. And the guy brings out the hamburger and coffee. Just genius.
And then he's like, Tom's like, I'm going to go get your keys. Hang on. Sounds like you've had a rough night. My girlfriend died, but sounds like you've had a rough night. And as Tom goes out there, the mob goes, hey, look, this guy's a burglar. And he's like, oh, hey, actually, he's right in there. Go get him. I was like, oh, my God. And didn't I just tell this guy that they think I'm a burglar and I'm not a burglar? But whatever. Sprints out of there, heads back to Club Berlin, which is now completely empty except for one person named June sitting alone who's always there. And as the mob gets there, he asks June to dance, and since she liked that, she's going to help him by having him hide in her apartment, which is under Club Berlin and actually also has access to the sewers.
You've seen the movie, Rob. Does she live with the Ninja Turtles?
That's what I was thinking. It's very Ninja Turtle-esque. And when the mob busts in and searches her underground lair, she's like, well, we're going to hide you in my paper mache. It was paper mache like new in the 80s? Was this?
No. No. No.
But for whatever reason, there are two people who have paper mache setups at the ready. And June covers him in paper mache. And when the mob leaves, she's like, no, this is where you're going to be safe forever. And also puts paper mache across his mouth, and he is stuck until June leaves. Cheech and Chong break in through the sewer pipes because they're the robbers. He was right. Like they happened to actually purchase the TV and statue earlier in the movie from Kiki, but they're also the burglars that everyone's looking for. And so they're burgling June, and Cheech is like, hey, this is like the statue I bought earlier. Now I can get it back. Takes it to the car. They drive uptown, and as they're making a corner, the doors on the van fly open. Paul, as a statue, falls out of the van. It cracks open all of the papier mache. He is covered in dust. but alive. And right as they're unlocking the doors to his job, so he walks in and sits at his terminal and reflects on, oh, what a crazy night.
It is a wild set of circumstances, especially the fact that June does live in a sewer because they enter through a sewer grate, an open sewer grate into her apartment. But yeah, I mean, this is the giant
specifically.
Manhole. And this thing, like Paul's office has these giant golden gates, which I am now assumed to believe might represent heaven to him. I'm not sure. Maybe. We saw him at the beginning of the movie, which my wife was like, well, you don't want to be caught after work in this place because they are locking these giant prison-sized steel gates. And so, yeah, he returns to his job, and I'm sitting there at the movie, and I'm going, wow, okay, that was an amazing trip. And I think I'll save it for the rating, what I actually feel about this ending. I'll do my Dick Miller and my ending part because that's a pretty good sum up. But it has been an amazing thing to watch this movie. And yeah, Paul, he's wordless. I mean, he gets up and dusts himself off with a bit of a grin and walks right into work and sits down, and his computer does say, "Good morning, Paul," which mans it must be triggered to his chair, which was not a thing in the 80s. I know movies like to do this, but it was just for dramatic effect. But yeah, and then the camera, the end credits are interesting because it launches into this high speed run with the steady cam through the office. Of watching people come in and all over their desks like it's a hyper fast flight over terrain for a few minutes, and then it just fades out, and that's the end of the movie.
Yeah. Well, Bill, I think we've gone a little long, and we have to do our little explanation that we promised to the listeners at the beginning. So what do you say we wrap up with our ratings? You can explain to people how we do this. And then any final thoughts we have, we can tie into our rating system.
Sure. Yep. This is the part of the movie where we look at it now. We've ended it and now got to rate it. And we call this part of our show Five Nights for $1. It might have been at some point back in the day in a Soho VHS rental shop. You might have walked in at 4:47 in the morning because it's open for some reason. And there might have been a pile or a stack of tapes with a sign that said Five Nights for $1. And that was the deal. You got your tape, you put down your buck. Not your $1.05 because that's not your $1.50. You need that for the subway. Make sure you've got extra change, folks. And you took it home and you watched it, and the value was placed on you. You kept it for one night. You keep it for 5 nights. That's the deal. And when we do this, we only rate our movie. No sequels, no prequels, no other things in our series. Simply, we've made it. We've made it from our uptown and or downtown crosstown trek, whichever way or wherever Rob's and I would live at this point. And we've slapped it in what surely is a borrowed VCR because we can't afford these things. But we've watched our movie, and now it's time. How are we going to rate 1985's After Hours? Last movie of the series. You know what, though? I'm going to let Rob's end on it. I'm going to go first.
Oh,
because you're the New York native, so you might have something to say.
Okay, go ahead.
This movie was so strange. It's labeled a comedy thriller. I don't know how much thriller it is, but there were a lot of points where I equally wanted to keep watching and walk away from this movie, which tells me that this movie had something to say. And it's another set in a time we know. I was never a yuppie. Let's just put it that way. But I understand the tropes of the time. Yeah, I know. And not a lot of yuppies in Ohio, but call that what you will. It was amazing to see. This whole thing was a rat's maze, and it was like one to another to another. Everything is connected in one way or another. Little hints and little clues that follow along, that if like you saw the name on the pill bottle, but then when you see the keys of Tom, you do make the connection. Same person. Holy cow. And watching Griffin Dunn's performance as just being shocked and shocked and shocked and shocked and just trying to relate that to go home, go home. I did look it up. Somebody did the math. He could only have been about 5 miles from his apartment.
Yeah.
And by the time he dumped Marcy, he's already wet. He could have walked. He could have, if he hadn't been killed, he could have walked home. And I understand not wanting to walk at home, but that's me. I'd be like, I'm that guy. I would have walked home and went, that night sucked, and called it a day. But it was an incredible ride. And it just shows you, the interactions between people. It's not so much who you are. It's how you can relate to whatever these people are doing in the moment. Because Paul gets through things. Like he gets in the club that he would never go into. He, one way or another, he navigates the people in there, even though he doesn't do a good job. He doesn't do a good job of any of it. Mm-hmm. But he gets through it. He perseveres. And you want to give him credit for that. but the whole thing still loops back to like, you kind of made a dick move, and you kind of keep making dick moves where if you're going to be honest with some people and just, it's like he wants absolution and he wants to avoid judgment, which you can't do if you don't know what's going on. So the movie is very tumultuous emotionally for me to watch, but I mean, it's a hell of a ride. My wife did walk out. I will say this, and she made a statement that was telling. She said, 18-year-old me probably would have watched this movie and loved it, but now she can't. And that's her journey, which I understand. And that shows how things can change over time. Me, I'm more of into why people do what they do. Like, I guess I'm more interested in how that interact, and the interactions with these people were all incredible. Their emotions and the way they screw it up is very real. It's the thing real people would do. Now, this is a lot at once, but that's what makes this movie a frenetic movie. And it kept my attention to the end. The only two things were, I've heard that nobody really knew how to end this movie. Scorsese didn't know. He asked all of his friends. There were multiple endings. This is the one they picked. I don't know that I like it because I myself can't answer the question, how do I think this movie would have ended? Which is telling. I can't answer it now, but I think, boy, that's something to ponder, that this movie gave me that question and I can't answer it. So it makes me intrigued and kind of want to think about it some more. And I think that's one of the best things a movie can do. Dick Miller is on screen for a flash as the waiter. He gets to say the name of the movie, which is always kind of good or bad. He says it. He came off to me like a magical character because he's the one that says to Marcy, who he clearly knows at this diner, hey, the rules are different after hours because they're going to let them leave without paying for their coffee. And he kind of almost finger guns the camera. And God, he looks good in this movie. And I'm thinking he could have been the Jiminy Cricket of this movie. I was praying he would come back to do it just because I liked him so much. And that's what made me think, is this some sci-fi movie? Is this going to be some weird LSD thing? So he brought even more gravitas to a movie that kind of really didn't need it, but it had it. So, and let's face it, and I know Rob will probably agree with me, it's 1985 New York at night in its glory. I mean, good Lord, you don't see a ton of it because it's kind of seems like it's a small box that Paul's running around in, but what you see is pretty amazing. So I'm going to give After Hours an easy 4.5 nights because, and I don't really know why. I kind of don't.
You had a good time.
It feels right, even though I can't really explain it. And the half is just because I think everybody was right. I think it's a movie you can't end, which is just weird. So the whole thing was a weird experience. It was fun, and I knew I'd have fun talking with you about it. So that's my rating. How about you, Robs?
Well, I think it's interesting that we're watching this movie at the same month that Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey has come out. Because this is The Odyssey, right?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, it is a trip home.
He goes on a trip and has trouble getting back home. At the end of the day, that's all that story is. And he runs into different, a lot of times women, Cersei, Calypso, all these people that delay his trip. And then, of course, monsters, Tom, right? The mob, it's fascinating to me that, like, what do they say? There's only like 4 stories, right? That's just how you tell them. I know that's kind of a easy way to say that, but
true.
It's just fun that I just went and saw The Odyssey and now I'm watching a different version of that. And even The Odyssey is like, how do you end this? He gets home, right? And then once he gets home, there's a little bit. That's what this is missing too. A little bit. It's like, well, I think from the beginning in this movie, we will learn that like he gets to where he needs to go. Like in no point am I ever like, oh, how is he going to get there? Because eventually, like it'll be daytime. He'll be able to like safely walk, or he'll figure out a way. Like if he can just stay up and avoid the problems, he will eventually be able to get to 5 miles away, right? Like that's not going to be an issue. How they do it is what we're watching for, right? Do I think the ending was perfect? No. it was kind of like the Deus Ex Machina, right? Cheech and Chong show up. Oh, he falls out right in front of work. And he has to repeat the cycle of what he does. And at that point, you're like, okay, we've reached the end. It's over. Like, we watched it for all the stuff before this. And it's silly, and it makes sense that it's silly, and it's not a perfect movie, but I enjoyed it. And I did not, I felt stressed, and it was hectic and chaotic and frenetic and all of those things. I think it was very 1985 in a lot of ways too, which, look, that's the time the movie was made. That's when I'm watching it. That's what I'm seeing, something real there. But it kept my attention. I enjoyed it, and I'm glad I bought it blind because people suggested it on disc, and I gave it 4 nights. I think that it's worth it. I would watch it again. There's scenes I want to see again. I think it's good.
Yeah, an amazing trip is what this was. And, it's nice to get a movie once in a while that you're never going to get a sequel to it, but, you can write your own in your head because apparently nobody else could really figure it out on their own. So nice twist. So that was fun. I think it was great. I think it was great to have Miller time with you, Robs. I know that you're always wondering with my picks whether they're a little bit at you or not, but this one was not. And it was a fun four episode run to bring this particular series to a close. And I think now we have doled this bait out long enough. Maybe it's time to let our friends in on what's new with the show. You want to take that away and give them the info?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Bill, I have had so much fun with this podcast. I think that it is, for everything we've done over the past, 3.5 years at this point? Something like that?
Yeah.
You always roll with the punches when I'm like, Bill, I'm just feeling a little stale. Should we make it just Patreon? Should we do this? Should we change the format? Should we whatever? And I always appreciate that you're willing to play ball, because from what we said at the beginning, when it stops being fun, we shouldn't be doing it. Because it's not like we have like a ton of patrons or anything like that, and that's not why we do it. But it's nice to like be able to pay the hosting costs and all of those sorts of things. And so there's like this happy medium of wanting to hang out with you, have fun talking about stuff we enjoy, but like also make it worth our time, because we could also just have a phone call, right? That's
absolutely
if that's the goal, right?
Sure.
So I thought, what's a way that we can continue having conversations and then maybe look at a new form of media that we don't normally talk about, while also keeping all of the things we love, right? So the Patreon's not going anywhere, everyone. Now, this episode I'm going to release in the public feed and the Patreon at the same time, just so everyone knows what's going on. Bill and I are going to take some time off. And so anyone on the Patreon right now, feel free to pause your membership or continue paying, because you're supporting us while we're building this new series. Just putting that out there right now. And Bill and I are going to shift formats to talking about comic books in the public feed. So the public feed will now be more current and updated, not a year ahead of time or a year in the past. And we're going to be talking about comic books. Now, the Patreon is going to be our sandbox, where we can talk about movies still. We can talk about different comics. We can talk about TV. We can do whatever we feel like in the media that we love. And the Patreon will at least start with a monthly bonus episode, while we're going to attempt to do 2 new episodes a month in the public feed. So when we launch Bill and Rob's Comics Journey, there will be 3 episodes a month in the Patreon, 2 episodes a month on the main feed, the ad feed, the public feed, I should say. Now, Bill, did I cover all of the scaffolding okay for this?
You did. And this is something Rob's and I've been talking about for several weeks. And, folks, he's right. Is sometimes you just got to shake it up a little bit. And as much as we love talking movies, and we still will here and there, you never know. Hey, if that Patreon ever takes off, don't think that Excellent Adventure couldn't come storming back with a heartbeat. But, and we just got excited because Rob's is a current reader. Like he is actively into things. I am just now creeping back into the medium a little bit. And so this was intriguing because we have tons of material to look at. There's things that we are really interested in. And, like you said, sometimes you just got to take a break. And that's not the luxury of people who do it for a living. They've got to do it. I can tell you, being a part-timer in another genre, I'd love to take a little break from every now and then. But I think it's going to be fun. And bottom line is, Rob's and I are buds, and we like to talk about all kinds of stuff. And sometimes it would be nice to talk about other things, but we go, well, we got to do a movie thing, which is not a crime or any kind of problem. But this gives us an opportunity to do something new, freshen ourselves up, play around in another sandbox, and get some of that going. Plus, hey, man, comics are kind of back in the news these days. There are things happening in this venue that me as a now 15-year lapsed person with a pull account is just now creeping back into. I'm kind of excited for this. And I think if you're a lover of the media and you just like hearing a couple of dudes talk about the things that they love as comic books, it's going to be for you. And like you said, we'll still hit on stuff. It could be anything. It could be the next video game Rob's playing. It could be some ridiculous thing I come up with, or we hit another movie where it's like, we do have a couple of sequels to past series that we never got around to. So we may tie up some loose ends in the Patreon. You never know, but we do believe you're going to be getting your money's worth, or free feeds worth with us. So we're going to do this, and we're going to let it play out. And I think you're going to like it. So we've got some fun ideas coming up.
Yeah, Patreon stays the same. The public feed will stay the same. So whatever you're subscribed to already, you don't have to change anything. But when you notice that we haven't posted in a while, a few weeks, a few months, it's just because Bill and I are building up our catalog so that we can test a couple episodes, make sure a couple episodes are up to snuff, and that we can build a little bit of runway so that we're not chasing our tails. It's all about making sure we're putting out the best product possible. And I'm really looking forward to it. I'm not going to give away exactly what the format's going to be, but Bill and I will be talking about old stuff, new stuff in the comics world, while also being able to dive into stuff on the Patreon that we would maybe not get the chance to do at this point.
Yeah. In that sense, it'll be the same as the movies here. Old stuff, new stuff, whatever we want. We just think you're going to like whatever we want because you've liked it so far. You've been our friends this whole time. We look forward to giving you some new things to chew on and listen to.
Excellent. Well, Bill, it's been a great run. I'm really excited for the next phase of this project. And I guess we'll see everyone next time on Bill and Rob's Comics Journey.